In the Mustafu Wild Forest, a great tragedy, a terrible crime was unfolding. A group of older students had kidnapped a younger one and had brought him to a forgotten shrine in the deepest part of the wood, the one where hikers and suicidal persons would go. They had forced the child to hug a dead man, telling him that he would soon be with his kind. There, they had tied the greenette's hands behind his back, removed all his clothes, and had etched slurs into his flesh. Homo, quirkless shit useless, just died already, you shitty doll. And by the end of it, he had stopped crying, he had stopped moving, and he would have stopped breathing if not for his stubborn streak and the unavoidable knowledge that a hero never gave up even when the sun was gone, painting the sky a pretty red, orange, and purple. Mom's coming soon, she'll look for me, and Kakin will tell her everything. He did it just to get away from the bad boys in our class, yeah, that's it. Izuku thought as he tried not to breathe too hard, since his ribs were painful and crunchy. Ribs were not supposed to be crunchy. They left, spitting on him, one of them covering the dying boy in urine, telling him that he was worth even less than that. When they left, Izuku felt both relief and deep despair. And then Kakin, I must have been really annoying today, he thought with renewed tears. The only thing he did was to give Kakin his forgotten bento. Mitsuki had asked him, but Kakin got mad again, putting him back in his place. Then a couple of older boys grabbed Izuku and did things to him, awful things to him, because he was quirkless. And a quirkless baby was only good at one thing, and one thing only. They had told him that a flaw of nature had no right to reproduce, and that Kakin had to take care of the trash, or else he was no better than Deku. His body hurt. Night fell. The air grew colder for the destroyed child. He was shivering, wondering if someone would ever bother finding him. She would find me. Mama will never forget me, ever. The little boy thought with full faith. The sun disappeared. Evening was upon little Izuku, who could barely keep his eyes open as the pain. The cold and blood loss took its toll on the tiny 7-year-old. Unbeknownst to him, one of his violator's parents had a quirk that let him make people forget about things for 3 days. And when his frantic mother went to confront him after Bakugo had snitched, she forgot she even had a son. And thus, Izuku was forgotten, thrown away, discarded for a perceived weakness. But as night fell, the border between human and yokai thinned, and the mistress of Gap, Yamana Devi Desai, born under the name of Maribel Hearns and who used to be Yakumo Yukari, emerged between the border of night and day and a Kuriai barrier. The location those demons had left Izuku to die was the outside world iteration of the Kuriai Shrine, one that, for the past millennia, had always appeared as falling apart. In reality, her reality, the Hakurai Shrine, at the top of the dragon's head and in the border itself, was striving. Well, it was less a mere Shinto shrine, but a glorious temple dedicated to Garanga and Nichinanda, and it had been taken care of by Raimu Revdi and her descendants for centuries. You see, 2.5 centuries ago, Yukari brought in a Hare Krishna devotee, and this devotee, with his charm and good behavior, charmed everyone that was someone in Jinsokyo. The result was that Jinsokyo had turned from a slew of different religious paths to the one spiritual science called Bhakti Yoga. And Yamana never wanted to go back to how things were before, and nothing will change her mind. Nothing at all. She addressed those who were beyond the fourth wall. Still, she could not sway them like this. It would be against the rules. And thus, she returned her attention to the dying sunshine laying naked and soiled on the floor of Revdi's divine shrine of the Friend of the Universe. Really, it was a sight for sore eyes. His body was pathetically small, and yet not an inch of it had been spared. He was bruised and cut all over. Slurs and death wishes were carved in his flesh, and if the blood that still flowed between his legs and feeding the red spider lilies was anything to go by, the grand yokai grimaced. Those so-called humans dared to call her kin's demons and amoral creatures of sins. What a joke! She sneered. We are called amoral, baby-eating monsters, while those born with strong power harass, desecrate, and mutilate children seen as weaker than them. Oh, sure, yokai could also be just as bad, but those yokai also tended to be eliminated quite quickly. Yamana and Revdi would make sure of that. The blonde, dressed in purple, kneeled beside the boy tethering between the border of life and death. His constellation of freckles a stark contrast against his appalling bruised skin, his eyes dull, filled with pain and fear, and resignation. And yet, Yamana could see a stubborn little spark that refused to wither. He, Midoriya Izuku, how fitting, was not willing to give up fighting quite yet. Yamana let the hand caress the bruised cheek, watching through this child's past. Well, it seems only one person will eventually miss you. Otherwise, your absence will be seen as a blessing. She spoke conversationally, noting how fat tears once again managed to flow from his eyes. But I assure you, Izukuin, what foolish men have thrown in the trash, calling them useless and worthless, have more potential than they can ever hope for. Yamana gently caressed his cheek. But you can't stay here, in this world of mundane logic and dull science. The grand youkai got her feet and manipulated the border between the two states of the Kurii shrine, and between life and death. Sure, Miss Aiki will be lecturing her for days about how one should not meddle in other Karmi's affairs. But Krishna had a plan, and this plan involved a green-haired child who carried divine chaos in his heart and attracted trouble like no other to learn of the way of Bhakti and of the Jinsokian way. Yamana shuddered, her present eyes witnessing a bright future. And then she gapped this knowledge away and slid into another crack, only to land on her favorite sofa. Another portal was open. An obscene amount on sacred snacks were purchased from her favorite merchants and temple from around the world, and, after slipping in her favorite set of pajama, settled down to watch the show, skipping over the angst of the beginning since, to be honest, the world was already a miserable place to be, and the readers did not need to have more on their plates. And then she pressed play on the day of the entrance exam. 0. 6 years had passed since his unfortunate adult and consequent spiriting away to the land of fantasy, and Izuku was happy, looking at herself in the mirror. The now girl, Mother Bala, her babysitter and healer, had told her, when her lack of genital and growth spurt had caused the eunuch to spiral further in its depression, that instead of focusing on what her body should be, they should focus on what she, the soul, was: an immortal, perfect entity made of eternity, knowledge and bliss locked away in an imperfect body made of pain, ignorance and so transient, a natural lover of God who had forgotten this position for a few eternity to many in whom, would she be so inclined, was embarking on a journey back home, back to Godhead. It worked, and Izuku picked up a new name and a new designation, vowing not to move from it unless absolutely necessary. Besides, she liked how Furisodes looked on her, and how, despite being a teen, was left alone by lust and Cupid. Lusty people were funny and sad to watch and gross. All this energy for a mere 20 minutes to an out of a fruitless endeavor, unless they were planning for children. After that, Izuku happily elected to use the female pronoun, since all souls, no matter the material covering, were female by nature. Gave herself a twirl with the help of her crutches. She was dressed in a forest green kimono. Her bento was wrapped in a cute pink furoshiki, and her hair was tied in a pair of pigtails. "Hey, Izukuheim!" A silver-haired girl spoke from Izuku's door. It was Mononobe no Fudo, all dressed in her revised Taoist outfits. Oh, it was not something extremely drastic, for she simply lengthened the skirt, and proudly wore the Vaishnava Tilaka and Kanti beads. "Hey, Holy Ka!" The young girl happily chirped as she hobbled along the ancestral woman, letting the other hug her with all of the strength. "Oh, Krishna, I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss all of you." She teared up, seeing her adopted daughter's beautiful eyes filled with tears. Holy Ka was quick to embrace the somewhat taller girl to her heart. "Oh, we haven't begun our trek to the portal, and thou art already tearful," she spoke gently. "Worry not, my child. Thou shalt not remain alone for long in this unforgiving land." Izuku, she was happy with this name. Beside, with how gender identity works, she just needed to put it as neutral, and nobody would bug her about it, she hoped. Tearfully nodded. "I know, I'll miss Gensokyo, the village in the mountains." She sniffed as she rubbed her face. "Don't want to go." Holy Ka's eyes softened. "Oh, but Dekaheim, thou hast the destiny to walk, and just as Krishna told Arjuna, thou mayst try to escape thine duty and fate, but thou shalt still be forcibly attracted to thy appointed fate. The gray-haired eunuch clenched her fist and eyes. She knew of the holy teachings of God, and she knew that, just like foul weather, one could not stop their own karmic due. I don't want to go, she choked out. I'm not normal, and ANDP people will judge me on my lack of quirk and dash. She held what was left of her genitals, the phantom pain once again visiting her. She felt Holy Ka's hands on her shoulders, grounding her in the present, the most beautiful gift. Fear not, my child. Thou hast gone through a plethora of suffering and hurdles, but yon sod study is nearing its end. All will improve. The 1,000-year-old, childlike hermit assured her daughter in all but name. Oh, Sangita, the old necromancer may have taken shine to misplaced and forgotten child. But only Holy Ka had bothered wiping her tears at night and being there when the pain was too great. Not only that, but Deku had sometimes called her mother, an honor not many had. I have to show the world the power of Krishna's devotee, and that despite choosing nonviolence, that we can still hold our own, and that we know how to deal with villains and incidents better than the pros. She managed to stem her sobbing as her back straightened. She was not the same young boy who had been bullied almost to death. She was not a Deku. She was Deku, servant of Krishna and daughter of the gods and hermit of the land of fantasy. But most importantly, an aspiring Vaishnavi, not yet initiated, it will be next year, filled with flaws but darn determined to give Krishna whatever she could. Sanely, of course, fanaticism was the ugliest thing in existence, and Haim liked pretty things. Yes, Holy Ka nodded with pride. And with thine future, said Ensue, thou art bound to cause the impact we all need. Deku's shoulder slumped. Holy Ka gently raised Deku's chin, so that their eyes could meet. Haim-chan, fret not, for thou shan't be facing this trial alone. We will all be with you. The girl-like hermit promised her young charge. Now come, dearest. The others are waiting for you with bated breath, and thou hast to make haste not to be late for the entrance exam. Yes, mother, the entrance exam. Despite being thrown away by the most fallen hero-worshipping culture, Deku still longs to attend UA and to see what type of quirk the ever-leaking man was producing. I wonder where Bakugo ended up. He would have been a problem, but still. But after thinking about it, she heard her mother figure. Nay, such a person would be considered a problem. Acting like a hero while acting like a villain. This youth would merely be looking for fights, and his abrasive attitude would drive people away. Brainwashing sucks. Haim uttered regretfully. I still think he would make a good hero, but so was everyone enamored by his quirk. Power without strength of character will only cause pain and suffering. Chandrakanti, or Yagakuro Iron, spoke up, making Haim raise her head. She was in the front garden of the Earth Palace, where she resided in the winter. She made friends with a few denizens of Old Hell, including Miss Savitri or Miss Satori Kamaji. She was an amnesiac mind reader. She didn't remember her old name, so she had taken the name of her species while she tried to remember. But nowadays, people called her Savitri, or Savitri Devi Desai, a servant of Achyutananda Swami. As she and her mind-reading friend exited to the courtyard, Deku was met with all of her friends she had made since this fateful night. Friends from Akai and Hokik, Old Hell, past the Sanzu Sacred Bank, and even going as far as Bavayagra and the Moon. She had friends from the Hakajiakuro, from the Forest of Magic, the Bamboo Forest of the Lost, and even from under the Youkai Mountain and the top. I'll miss them. Tears flooded her eyes as she tried to stem them with the end of her cotton furusode. Yes, and we will miss you also. Savitri spoke to her friend. But don't fear, we will be with you. We are all just a thought away. The Satori hugged the quality weeping girl. As she walked further in or hobbled, in Haim's case, all of her friends, some humans, other youkai in nature were there, ready to see her off. They sat Haim in a chair and all came forward, carrying gifts like spell cards, blessings, trinkets, and prasadam, of course. Hugs were given, tears were shed, and love was shared. It was a sweet image of love between a normal human and an overpowered being, and that was manifested and maintained by the mercy and mutual love for God, the creator and maintainer of everything. But as with everything in the material world, what had a beginning needed to end. Dekaheim, Yamana spoke up, standing tall and regal beside Manjalali Manjari or Okina Matara. It's time to go. I'll drop you off in front of UA. So you don. T have to tire yourself prematurely. Dekaheim nodded as she gave one last hug to her friend Chin, or Chatursma Devi Desai. Her eyes were red and puffy, and determination shone through as of yet unshed tears. Don't worry, Dekachan. We'll be here if you need us, and even if you don't need us. And if you feel you can't rely on us. Hashigumayami, the chieftain of Hell, walked up to the tiny Eunuchian girl. Then rely on Bhagwan. He'll get you out of trouble. And you can't feel lonely if the sexiest guy period lives rent-free in your heart. Those words had the intended effect, and Haim began to giggle. Yeah, okay. I won't leave Krishna alone. You can trust me on that. And how? There was one thing about Gensokyo that made it different from anything else in the world, save for some very specific places like Mayapur, Vrindavan, and every iteration of God's playground. What that, some unspecific times ago, they had switched from the Asian religious trio to full-on Gaudiya Vaishnavism, or the eternal science of self-realization through pure, unalloyed service to the highest and most personal form of God, the supreme and absolute truth, Bhagwan Sri Krishna and Srimati Radharani, the supreme personality of Godhead and his primal, loving energy, and for the Gaudiyas of the world, the fused form of the two, known as Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Radha and Krishna as one, the avatar of mercy for the most fallen age. And for some very fortunate reason, the Golden Lord at Flexibit and now the Gensakian were now known for chanting Jai Sachinandana Gaurahari and Hare Krishna, 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 Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare at the top of their lungs while dancing and flying around like the maddest of people. Everyone truly was mad in Wonderland. I'll miss this place. Dekaheim wetly whispered against Yuma's shoulder. She was practicing, but she had yet to find her appointed guru. Yeah, and we'll miss you too. The Tatite crooned. Hell, LB, I don't know if quieter will be the right word, but it will definitely be gloomier. Yuma sighed after she took a greeting with a whiff of Deku's hair and scent. Then she pushed the young girl away, yet keeping her still within the reach of her arms. Now go get bestie. Go and show the world the glories of the divine alliance for the propagation of love of God. She cheered as she raised her hands as a gesture of victory. For Prabhupada and Garanga, Nityananda. Suddenly, the sharp sound of reality during itself stopped all conversation as the mistress of gaps appeared above it. While she still had her mysterious and mischievous smile, there was sadness also. Who's going to die? Haim asked her greatest benefactor. Well, isn't this a trick question? Dekaheim rolled her eyes with fond exasperation. But seriously, will I lose my body once I walk out your gap and into concrete hell again? Oh, no, not at all. The grand youkai waved off the silly concern. You will have a long life, trust me. She then let out a gusty sigh as tears fell from her eyes. I'm just seeing a little girl on the cusp of adulthood, walking away from the shelter of her family and friends and about to face the big, scary world filled with danger at every step. I see you make more friends and enemies, but you will still have to face strife. You will be loved by those who are important, but hated by most at the start. Your adventure will start with a single step, and it will end as you start your dance with the Lord. You always give this blessing. Dekaheim said with a blush, Well, there is nothing wrong in aiming to have another dancer in his Raza dance. Yamuna, the young girl, whined. Let me first learn how to be a maid servant at the feet of my guru. I'm not even close. She flailed around, cheating a bit with levitation since, with the state of her hips, standing unaided was about a reality as having the last of the quirkless walk out of Gensokyo and taking over the world. Wait! She heard her father. And indeed, dropping from a cloud cover's vault was Prince Tisaramimi no Miko, or Uma Devi Desai, descending like the celestial being she was. He came fluttering majestically behind her. She landed in the courtyard as Yami and Savitri surrounded her, making sure the demons of hell would not dare eat her. The Shikazan stood in front of the shorter girl. My dear Musum, she began as she placed her hand on Deku shoulder. In the short time I've known you, I've seen you grown from a traumatized eunuch to something I know will be on the throne one day. Once again, it took everything in Haim's arsenal not to weep. Uma's face turned serious. I know that you are about to step into Kali Yuga hell, in a place where those who are normal are seen as weak and useless. Deku felt more tears running down her face. But know something, Musum. Despite what everyone says, the only one you have to impress is God. And for him, even a small spider throwing sand in the ocean as a service to him is considered great. The ancient prince spoke as she brought her daughter to her arms. I love you the way you are. You are neither useless nor obsolete. You are dear to all of us, and we will always be but thought away. The imperial prince spoke with a wavering voice as she placed a finely crafted komote mask on Deku freckled face. This mask, Kamala has infused all of her emotional energies in it. It will inspire trust and hope, and it will give you the charisma you need to pass the greatest of obstacles. I can't feel any magic here, Dad, but it's the thought that counts. Haim talked gratefully. The fear of being recognized as Midoriya Izuku now gone. She didn't want to be hated. She didn't want to be hurt again. Yes, but she will never get to those obstacles if she arrives late at the school, Uma-chan. Era, can I bid our collective daughter and good friend good luck and fair wind? Yes, you may, and I believe you did. Yamana then addressed Deku. Now come, Haim-chan, your future waits. Deku regretfully let go of her dad and hobbled to the portal, only to have the imposing woman stoop down and engulf the shorter teen in her silken embrace. Everything will be fine. May Sri Sri Radhakrishna remains eternally with you. May Lord Narasimhadeva protect you from all harm, and may Gorengi use you as his instrument of mercy. The grand yokai bid as she removed the komote mask to press a kiss on Haim's forehead, nestled between the two branches of her thilaka. Now go, make us proud. And if I fail, you will still make us proud. And with that, the Yoshima gaped her away to Mizudafu, in an alleyway not that far from the legendary entryway. Legendary. It's only called that because one hero partially ended one incident. I'm sure it's overblown. The building's not even cute. She internally, she hoped, groused as she hobbled to it, merging with the crowd. She definitely caught the attention of many with the ancient accoutrement, what with the Furasode and the no mask. But Deku was not here to fit. She was here to make a statement. She walked through the gate without much problem save from one rock. But nothing else beyond that, and nothing that a bit of floating would not fix. Oh, be careful. A girl spoke, and Haim turned to face her, causing the fluffy brunette to balk. You think I'm fluffy? She asked, now thoroughly unsure now that she had the full attention of the odd girl. Yes, absolutely. Deku confirmed as she hobbled further in the compound, and to the absolutely ugly H-shaped building where the registrations were happening. Your hair is soft and fluffy. You have a gloriously round cheek decorated with spots of pink on them. You have broad and auspicious hips and thighs, and your bosom complements the rest. She praised. Immediately, the girl's face turned a crimson red. Oh my gosh! Are you hitting on me? It's nice of you, but I'm totally not into girls. I don't really have a gender anymore, Deku assured me, and I wasn't trying to court you, but stating the fact. You, whoever you are, have a very good body karma, and your beauty will grow with you. And Haim knew full well that she would be a sweet older lady, one that would be taken care of at the end of her life. Oh, Krishna! Please protect her, and if Dash, by the way, what is your name? She asked her healthy companion. Oh, I'm Urarko Ochako. It's a pleasure to meet you, the bubbly girl greeted. Wah! So cute. She reminds me of those nice fairy by the Kuriai shrine. I used the name Deku Moriya. Deku, Urarka-chan parroted. That's, useless. It's Red, Doll Princess. My sister named me after a character from Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask. Oh, all right then. Urarka mitered as she fiddled with her fingers. Anyway, why are you here? To pass the test. Haim answered simply as she looked for the registration line, hoping it was not a pre-registration event. Sure, We may have the internet up in the mountains and down in old hell, but she had been so busy with the last incident, Haim had completely forgotten to check. But you can't walk. Uraraka-san protested. There's going to be a physical exam. No idea what it'll be, Dash. I put my money on robots since humans will be begging for casualty. And we are obviously going to face an OP opponent. Still, I wonder why it has to be robots and not something like fairies, way cheaper, and they can respawn upon death. Yeah, I need to talk to the principal about this. I'm sure the Fae kind will be thrilled to mess with teenagers. Haim chuckled. Oh, yeah. Pranking fairies versus teenagers with powers. Haim would pay to see that. Don't be ridiculous. There's no way UA would use robots. Uraraka protested. I'm sure it's something like old school Olympics, but with quirks, what's your quirk, by the way? But before Deku could answer the bubbly, yet insensitive girl, she was in front of the registration officer. Name? The officer asked, probably someone hired for the occasion. Do I have to give my legal name? She asked. I am under protection. She admitted. Something happened in my youth that would make my identity a huge liability. The officer raised his head from his computer, looked at Deku, and, after typing on his console, gave her a tablet. Just write your legal name here, and whatever information you can't say openly. Oh, Krishna bless you. And thus Deku filled her registration, entering her age, name to be called, gender, and quirk. Miss, you're quirkless. Yes, I am aware. I can't let you dash. But before the idiot could continue, Deku interrupted him. Yes, you can. There are no rules that prevent a quirkless individual from entering the UA registration, and if I remember correctly, they are also inviting whatever quirkless potential students to attend, probably bait them to get killed by those robots, don't they? The clerk paled. So it is robots then, don't worry. I've already faced death a few times over. I do not fear him anymore. Deku assured the man. So let's proceed then. But Dash, Deku huffed. And if you really need to put something as a quirk, then just put the magic of friendship. The man stared. Hurry up. You're making people wait, She scowled behind her mask. Sure, she may be a bit shy, bit of one thing Kalabdi, Kagayaheim. And Tajiko had taught the young girl, was that shyness has its place, but don't become a carpet, and feminine pride has its use, but don't use it so often. All right, miss. The clerk spoke with a scowl. Your family better not sue us when you die. If my destiny is to die on a mock battlefield, then may this broken body fall gracefully. She inclined her head. And may I remember Govind at the time of death. She spoke as she took her badge and number. Thank you for your help, and please accept my apology for whatever sass I gave you. And with that, Deku proceeded to the testing proper. 0. The written part of the exam was rather easy, especially since Yamana had coached her into understanding many of the modern-day laws that surrounded quirks and what's make a hero or a villain, and all of this didn't give much hope to the adopted princess of Gensokyo. And she wasn't shy to voice it out on paper. Japan was heading to a bloody civil war between heroes and villains, and if they didn't change a few things pronto well, all those buildings and fancy restaurants living in places of nature and greenery would be ruined, and Deku would simply return home and let the carnage happen. She had better things to do than being a hero for such a vile civilization. Also, there were so many people around. Sure, fairies and youkai were plentiful in Gensokyo, but so were trees and flowers. Obviously, everyone is stressed out here because of the lack of greenery, and crimes are going up. Humans, no one is meant to like in a place made of concrete and ugly stones. What to say about a severe lack of ultimate goal and God Concha Dash? And you, one young tall man with glasses, an extremely stiff movement, a descendant of Yoshika, perhaps. Why do you keep mumbling? You are causing a disturbance, Dash. And why are you giving me a Uno reverse card in blue? Deku rolled her eyes. And what you are wearing is inappropriate for the physical exam, and you should not be here due to your handicap. You can't be a hero without proper legs. For her part, the Gensokian folded her palms and raised her eyes to the heavens as she prayed for Supreme Lord for strength, forbearance, and tolerance. Then the Banshee, Manzi, asked the MC about the useless 0-pointer. Deckheim gave him half an ear as she focused on Urarka-san, praying for her to be safe during the entrance exam. She was not worried about herself, since it was not the first time she was fighting in her current state. 0. Up in the observation room, most of the faculty members were observing the big names, and those with desirable quirks. Yes, so it was also a question of quirk. But let's be honest, the Hero Commission had certain guidelines about what was a heroic quirk. It was also a way for Nezu to be 5 steps ahead of the potential breeders and kidnappers. Oh, Midnight cooed as she looked up at one participant. We have a quirkless girl, it seems. Really? Aizawa asked with a raise of his brows. Who is it? Number 29B. Snipe spoke up. Holy Jesus, she ain't got the legs to fight. He exclaimed as the main screen focused on a young girl. What the hell is she wearing? Aizawa ran his hand in his hair. I mean, we did tell the attendee to wear practical clothing, but who the hell thinks wearing a no mask and a kimono to be something proper to wear in a heroic entrance exam? Miss Moriya, apparently. Namiri purred. She will get destroyed. Quite a wake-up call, don't you think? Forget about what she's wearing. She's handicapped. All Might exclaim. Quirkless, on crutches. Nezu, please pause this whole thing and throw her out. Put her in Gen Ed, but please dash. He pleaded for the innocent girl's life. No, why should I do that? The mammal asked. Every student signs a waiver that liberates us from the burden of their death, same as their legal guardians. This young girl is taking this exam knowing full well that she may die, and who am I to prevent her from participating? Who knows? It may be a dying wish. Once again, All Might open his mouth to protest, but President Mike had already started the exam. In the observation room, the teachers and administrative staff braced themselves for the girl's imminent demise. Miss Moriya lurched forwards, falling forward like a doll shoved forward. And, the great shock of all, flew off. Needless to say, All Might could not hold his bloody cough as he once again witnessed his sensei's quirk in action. Wasn't the ever-loving fuck. Shoyuta cursed as he turned to face Nezu. Nezu, I thought you told me she was quirkless. Told you? Namiri repeated with narrowed eyes. He merely caught a glimpse of her application. Nezu explained with a hidden sadistic smile. As with every year, Shota will try to catch a glimpse of who will participate. I let him see a bit more this year. So, come on, partner. Y'all just cheating at dice now. And a bevy of other protests was heard, as All Might desperately tried to keep his inflated form as he watched Nana return, navigating the city like an elegant butterfly or Superman. And then, the notification for the Depliant robot in the fake city. Now, let's see what she will do. Nezu spoke over the rim of his cup. I know we are supposed to be impartial, but Miss Moriya is quite the anomaly, don't you think? Bet this widow wench told a fat fib about her status. Snipe drawled. Yeah, won't let her and can't stand fibbers. Aizawa was about to grill the cowboy about his choice when the flying Mieko pulled another trick up her expansive sleeves. Lasers and light bullets. The moment she laid an eye on the exam bot, she unleashed a flurry of colorful laser bullets. And were those butterflies? Yes, those were butterflies, and they were shot from the tip of her crutches, going out at a rate that reminded Snipe of a Gatling gun on steroids. Needless to say, the robots were but spare parts after that. Then the kimono-clad girl zoomed away and cleared out a bit more robot before she stopped, turned around, and began yelling at the stunned hopeful. What are you doing here? Lord Yomiai's robotic army is upon us. Soldiers, aid me, grab your weapons, and fight. This was what the rest of the hopefuls needed to get their asses in gears. And at this point, Miss Moriya remained in the sky, nonchalantly dodging bullets while offering air support and pointers to the student, even rescuing quite a few by pulling them out of danger. Needless to say, many pros were wondering how this child had this much experience in a chaotic scenario. But for All Might, it was a nightmare. There on the screen, in the hollow grounds of his alma mater, was a mysterious, quirkless girl flying and shooting lasers and other light constructs at the robots, just by the villain points. She would make it heroic. What to say about her rescue point? Hell, Tashinori would happily give her team points and leadership points, support points and style points for her performance, if not for the fact that she was using a pair of quirk, and she had her face hidden. After 9 minutes, Nedzu, with a sadistic grin, unleashed the zero-pointer, and as expected, all the attendant ran for their lives, some not even bothering to look back, while someone to look for some last-minute point, a few othered helping those who were lagging behind. What was Ida doing? Just running like that away from danger? He was practically at the front of the pack also. But one figure remained like a looming sentinel, watching over the stragglers as she shot whatever robot dared take potshot at the escape. Already, Aizawa could determine that she was not new to this. Miss Moria had experience with dealing with crisis situations such as these. She had the power, the presence, and the charisma to make people move. Suddenly, a screen came up, flashing red with urgency. One of the examinees, a girl with a fair share of villain points and rescue points, a perfect body, and a perfect quirk, was stuck under the rubbles, and her quirk, zero gravity, had reached its limit from the lost breakfast on the ground. She was valiantly trying to escape, but it was no use. The tread of the zero-pointer would crush her. Now, while they had made all students sign this legal paper, making it impossible for them to sue the school if something, including death, were to happen during the entrance exam, it didn't mean that there was no fail-safe in place to prevent such a thing. And Aizawa dearly hoped that Nedzu remembered that those kids had nothing to do with the scientist that had tortured him in the name of science. The mammal had a moral compass. He had to have one. Hell, some villains had one too. But the beast grinned and showed you to almost use an eraser on the demon, only to hear Miss Maria's declaration. Divine swords of the 7 sages. Aizawa only had the time to turn around to see the flying girl raise a hand as a sword in a black scabbard with a golden lotus root decoration on it, S body and a sun on its hilt before she disappeared, only to reappear at the top left of the zero-pointer. And then she slashed the beast diagonally from top to bottom. The zero-pointer was that, a zero-pointer, because if a mere child managed to take the hulking behemoth out, then he was automatically added to Class A1's roster. This girl, this kimono wearing Mieko who needed crutches to walk, who was marked as quirkless, and who seemed to be made out of spun glass, had decimated the beast with a fucking sword. In the background, Nedzu cawed freely, his tea spilling everywhere. That was until Miss Moria destroyed the rubble trapping the gravity girl. Unsafe way of evacuation, this would have to be remedied. And then processed to stab her. Needless to say, the whole room became silent after that. Needless to say, after the gratuitous murder of Uraraka-san, the observation room cleared out in record time and robots were called to contain the murderous teen with the magic, the sword, and the multiple quirks. So, oblivious, All Might was the first at the scene. What met him was not what he'd expected. Moria Izuku, that was a girl's legal name, and there was no one that existed in any database with this name, had stabbed what should have been his rescue victim and a direct ticket to UA and out of the dirty grip of the HBSC, but no. She had to do the logical thing. She had to kill Miss Uraraka in cold blood because of reasons. But to be honest, Gensokyo sounded like a very far and backwater kind place. Since who the hell wore a cotton kimono nowadays? The group of heroes arrived at the location of the horrible crime, All Might at their head. Now, while the girl had committed a heinous crime, she did not deserve to be plummeted to a pulp by Mr. Steroids are for the weak. So Eraserhead does a logical thing and erased the moving landmass's quirk. Needless to say, he was not prepared to see him go poof and be replaced by a skeletal secretary. Well, that worked, and doesn't show you the nose of headache that will follow this particular discovery. But as he approached the scene of the crime, he noticed something peculiar. Izuku was laying on the ground beside Uraraka-san and talking to her, and looming over them two gave no further logical answer, as that what was going on. The two girls were too engrossed in talking about different cloud formations in a cloudless sky, Moria lamenting the fact that she missed her pink cloud friend and hoped he wouldn't cause any trouble. Since, while there was plenty of blood on the ground, Uraraka-san's body held not wound. Her cheeks were rosy and healthy, and she was breathing deeply, seemingly sleeping and wholly unaware of the chatterbox chatting away. She would give Azashi a run for his money, and show you to pray to whatever cosmic power that was out there that the two would never meet. There was no sign of the unfortunate accident, save for the blood and Urarak-san's ruined gym clothes. Oh, and there were no swords in sight either. Another quirk, perhaps? What the hell is going on here? Shoyuta asked with his most neutral yet commanding voice, which apparently was loud enough to rouse Uraraka-san from her torpor. And, alarmingly enough, the first thing she did was to check her body, clenching and flexing her hands in front of her, looking both confused and receiving the greatest revelation. Oh, thank Nedzu. Shoyuta let out in relief while activating his quirk on the grounded girl, shrouded in mystery. Speaking of Izuku, she was holding her hips, moaning, and it was not due to a quirk. No, she had no quirk at all. There was nothing to stop. So, she truly is quirkless. But how did she manage to fly then? And those bullets? And the sword? Shoyuta had so many questions now. Questions to All Might or Yagi Tashinori, to Moriya-san, to Nedzu, and to God, if the bastard existed. Miss Uraraka, is everything all right? He asked instead, as he once again scanned her over for any signs of injury. Nothing with horror how her outfit was practically destroyed, as if the zero-pointer had been right on top of her. Ah, yes, my body is. Miss Uraraka nodded. Shoyuta raised a brow at the wording. Well, it is now, anyway. I mean, I should have known something like that would happen since I had to sign a waiver and all that. She sighed as she inspected the many holes now decorating her shirt and pants, all of them telling of a gruesome story. Apparently, the zero-pointer did not, in fact, crush her death, but the piece of concrete she had been buried under. Not that it made it better. Not by a long shot. Yeah, meaning this exam, aimed for teenagers, really is a ploy to get rid of weak and useless quirks and clean away the gene pool. Miss Moriya spoke up from her spot on the ground. Listen, when I'll see the principal, I need to tell him about how he needs to get rid of the robots and hire fairies instead. So, fairies exist? Uraraka asked as he got up and dusted herself, showing no bruising nor scratches. How about aliens? And Lunarians? I have a Lunarian friend. She's well over 1,000. Actually, she's Dash. And then Miss Moriya began to recite more digits than it was healthy for a human to know. Deciding that it was time to stop this nonsense since it was clear Moriya-san's sanity was extremely shaky, Shoyuta spoke up in a familiar drawl he would use on criminals. As interesting as this conversation is, Moriya Izuku, I would rather you explain to me why you stabbed Miss Uraraka. She was dying, the crazy girl stated, still supine on the ground. Thankfully, my father's sword not only has the ability to cut through modern illusion, but it can also heal the most fatal wounds as long as the spirit soul is not on Yamaloka. By the way, Uraraka-san, how are you feeling? She asked the apparently revived girl, and by the state of her clothing, shouts could not deny that she had been a casualty. And wasn't that something horrific? Uraraka-san gave a broad, bright smile as she gave off an exuberant smile. Never better but Dash. Of course, there's a but. Shoyuta taught with deep dread. I feel like I'm not Uraraka Ochako, like, not this body. But what am I if I'm not this? She asked with some concern. You are the spirit soul living in a body by the name or Uraraka Ochako. You, the soul, have no birth, no death. You do not age and nothing will destroy you. Not even a stupidly overpowered quirk. Oh, that's nice. The rosy-cheeked girl cheered. Don't have to worry about dying now. Moriya chuckled from her place on the ground. And you are the eternally separated part and parcel of God, Krishna. Wait, he exists? Oh, of course he does. Aizawa could practically hear the Willy teen's eye roll. For his part, what wouldn't he do for a long nap and waking up to a boring routine, including a completely underwhelming class? Hell, he would be the happiest man alive if he wouldn't have to deal with Moriya-san. She was beyond a problem child and down right into chaotic gremlin from hell. Suddenly, Recovery Girl arrived, riding on her scooter/contact Medibot. All right, enough chit-chat. Who has he wounded? She commanded. I'm all right. Moriya-san spoke from her spot on the floor. And I don't think the legendary Recovery Girl could regen a long-lost limb. You will know when I become a student. I was more worried about the girl you stabbed. Recovery girl deadpanned, her accusation her eyes hard. Shoyuta knew those eyes, and he was thoughtfully impressed that none of the girls were by her tiny old commander ways. I'm perfectly fine, too. Uraraka-san confirmed with full energy. I felt even better than when I came in, too. Chio gave the brunette a skeptical once-over. She was crushed under some rubbles, and the zero-pointer did squish her body until the soul was expelled. Not my finest moment, Uraraka added. Thankfully, the 7 sages empower my father's sword with their shaki. Otherwise, I'd be a ghost haunting y'all, 'cause my parent can't pay for my funeral. Tragic. Absolutely. Shoyuta sent a tired glance at Recovery Girl, who was staring at Midoriya-san with the same hungry eyes a rare figurine collector would have if faced with an Iron Man's mint-condition action figure would be presented in front of her. Those were banned, wonder why. And how about you, Miss Dash? You may call me Deku, but Midoriya is what everyone feels comfortable with. She stated, Are you hurt somewhere? Chio asked as she began to inspect Midoriya-san. I never expected to see you fly, and I was about to run Ned's a trough for having you participate in the exam. Willie Omo, this one. Oh, I was hurt, and my thighs can't move all that well, and I did landed wrong, but it's not that bad. I was just watching my cloud friend. See? Midoriya-san pointed at a lone cloud floating in the sky before waving at it. Anywho, can we leave now? I still need to find a place to stay. Yeah, I really want to head back to my flat, too. I had a big day, and I can feel it will rain also. Oh, you can feel that? Midoriya asked as she floated up, proving that she was not too hurt. Uraraka nodded. Yup, Dad showed me how too, and I guess my gran had this super useful quirk that let her read the atmospheric pressure and the wind. Wow, now that's an impressive quirk. Midoriya spoke with clear appreciation. I wonder, was she feeling the pressure with her skin, her hair, or her eyeballs? Or maybe she could hear the fairy whispering about what would be the weather for the next day. But then, this would not be called a quirk, and she would be another quirkless person with amazing skills that had nothing to do with genetic coding. Not that it's really from one's genetic, but from Dash. All right, you two. Shoyuta mildly snapped at the two. Just get out of here. All right, Mr. Hero. Uraraka gave a salute. Of course, Aizawa Shida-san. Miss Midoriya said, surprising the underground hero more than he cared to admit. But before he could demand how the crazy girl managed to get his legal name, she lifted off the ground and turned to Uraraka-san. Uraraka, mind coming my place? I know it's pretty sudden, but I moved in from another village, a village that had remained the same for over the past century or so, and I would need someone better versed in today's lifestyle and cityscape to teach me how to navigate. She bowed, still not touching the ground. Just call me Ochako. And of course, I'll help you get used to Tokyo. Not sure about Mizuta, though, since I come from Fukuoka myself. Oh, really? And thus, Shoyuta Nedzu, since of course the damn mammal had peeped in the weird conversation, and a very deflated All Might. The goof was playing his competent, quirkless secretary, Mr. Yagi. Credit where credit was due on this one. Watched with an uncomfortable mixture of awe, confusion, fear, and dread as the two examinees walked or flew, in Midoriya's case, out of the testing ground into the green-haired future problem home, somewhere in Mizuta. For Shoyuta, Yagi, and Nedzu, the next course of action was clear. They had to find as much information they could about Midoriya Izuku, and fast. For all they knew, this multi-quirked, quirkless person was the first sight of something sinister, and thus Shoyuta followed the two, or would have, if he had not forgotten what he was supposed to do once he boarded the train. 1 bus ride later. Deku could not wait to tell all about it to her fairy friends back home. Cinnamoni would be so jealous about the fact that the eunuch had boarded one of those fabled buses. And the two girls, or a girl and her eunuch friend, were out of UA and wandering around, looking for Haim's apartment. So, you don't know where we're going. Ochako, after what had happened, it would be ridiculous to have the two girls call each other by anything lesser than their given name. No, Haim admitted as she read each and every number and nameplate she could find. I started off in old hell, and Yamanagi gapped me near the entrance of the campus. Otherwise, it's been a long time since I've set foot in mundane Tokyo. Wait, you were in hell? Ochako gasped as she grabbed her new friend by the shoulders. Oh my God, Dash! Krishna, how did you... Why would someone so sweet and pure get there? I was visiting a few friends, and it was for my training also. Haim informed her new, absolutely human friend with the floating ability. Ochako was staring at the somewhat taller girl. Wait, you got training from hell? The fluffy teen with the red cheeks asked as she stared at the hobbling greenette. She was currently imagining a literal training from hell montage. Ochako's lovely brown eyes blew wide open as realization dawned on her. Oh, that's how you hurt your legs. She pointed. Oh, Krishna, she had finger pads. Deku so want to poke them. No, I just had a blow job at 8 that rendered me crippled and without any genitals. The magical girl absent-mindedly revealed. Say, Akin, does this place looks way too expensive to house affordable housing units? Haim asked her new friend, turning to face her since the bubbly girl had gone frightfully silent. Wait, you? And pale. Decaheim rolled her eyes behind her mask. They got blown up, and since it was a sizable explosion, my pelvic bone got shattered. It got healed, but chronic pains, loss of muscle mass, and traumatized connective tissues, and a whole slew of other bumps became my daily companions. Oh, poor you. Ochako teared up as she hugged the taller girl. It's all right. It's in the past, and this nasty piece of karma is done and gone. Haim waved off. And it's not like it made my life unlivable or prevent me from fighting and flying. Who did this to you? The brunette asked, a vengeful fire burnt bright in her chocolate eyes. Oh, some kids in my old school. I don't even remember his name, let alone which school I used to go to, she admitted. I think we're getting closer. Seriously? Ochako asked. It's the rich part of town. Endeavor lives here, so there are no villains daring to come near him, she explained as she looked around in clear discomfort. Decaheim noticed immediately how her friend was scanning each and every alley, not out of fear, but out of greed. Ochako, you are poor, don't you? What type of question is that? Ochako screeched before covering her mouth, hoping this would not cause any noise complaints. And having a noise complaint ticket on top of the debts her parent had would. Well, she barely had enough to pay for her hero suit on top of her rent and food, let alone having something better than a somewhat armored suit and a face shield and poofy boots. It wasn't a question, and you just confirmed that your financial problems are affecting you emotionally. Don't worry. If my house is nearby, then I'm sure there's enough room for you. The magical girl proposed with glee. Oh, how nice would it be not to be alone in an empty house? Ochako stared at Decaheim before her cheeks turned red. Haim's face fell. Ah, you have your pride. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to insult you. She bowed down as tears gathered in her eyes. She was used to being blunt, being well-liked by the Onis of hell and heaven because of it, and the Satori, since she was so forward and could not manipulate anyone for the life of her. Still, this was the outside world, where people had their pride and who saw asking for help as something dishonorable, which, in the young Vaishnavi's mind, was absolutely bonkers, since everyone here were but mere humans with the 4 flaws making all their endeavors hard and painful. They would lie to one another, despite saying that they trusted each other, and they would get cheated, they would get illusioned, and they would forget. And Izuku had completely forgotten that in Japan, it was all about pride, and like an idiot, she had proposed to Uraraka-san to admit the fact that she was poorer than the eunuch and live at her expense. Meaning, I'm sorry. She tried to stem her tears, but as per usual, they spilled off from the mask's eyes as she sobbed. Wait, what? Uraraka panicked. What's wrong? Is it because Dash? I didn't mean to insult you, Dash. She sobbed harder. Her first day out of Jinsokyo, he first friend and numerous blunders. No. N-O-non-a-non-a-non. The next thing she knew, Decaheim was crushed to Uraraka's bosom. I'm sorry. I'm not. You're right about how tight I am financially. I I let my pride as an Urarka take over. I mean, my dad never accepts help for anyone, and my mom can't too since, Da's the one in charge. But anyway, I'm not here to pile you up with my bad karma. We need to find your home. Ochako cheered with vigor. Dekuheim sniffled as she took out a handkerchief from her broad sleeve and cleaned up her face. Okay, she squeaked, relieved that her budding friendship with the fluffy girl was not over yet due to her faux pas. Once again, being raised by the yokai, since it was known that she had a connection with Yamana by the human village, meant that social cues were not clear to her. Nevertheless, by Krishna and Guru's causeless mercy, Ochako was not so irremediably insulted that she left the crippled girl out in an unknown place, crying. Now, what's the address again? Ochako asked as she checked her Caterpillar phone. I don't think I got it right the first time. It's this? Dekuheim showed her friend her address slip again, and Ochako paled. I can't. Izuku-chan, you're living in a brand new, as in it just got built, villa, this one. She pointed at the majestic building overlooking a forest. It seemed as if Gensokyo had decided that she wanted to claim a piece of Mujuatfu, and thus took over an entire hill and vale for it. Izuku-chan. Ochako grazed her frying sleeve. This is Sokoto Hill, the most haunted place in Muzutafu. She warned as around. Worried gaze never left the apparently cursed piece of property. Years ago, there was a fire here, a blue fire, and on this hill, rumor has it that Endeavor's first son burned to death. Oh, so this is why it was sold then. Heim spoke with a smile hidden under her sacred no mask. Good to know. The poor son of Endeavor will definitely need the holy name to get out of his perilous situation. Now come on, friend. We are in dire need of shower and cloth. Heim's tone broke no argument as she found the expansive properties gate. And find it she did, and the sight of a person she thought she would never get to see again. There, sleeping while standing up, her intense red hair being played within the slight early spring breeze, she wore an emerald green dress and waistcoat over a white short-sleeved shirt, and on her blazing lock, a beret sat, a golden star was proudly proclaiming the name of the gate guard of the Scarlet Devil Mansion. Mohini! Heim exclaimed in pure joy as she woke up the guard, who quickly took the most generic and badly done fighting posture, only to lose her attempt at appearing fearsome. When a flying unit collided with her, her eyes filled with tears of love and joy. Oh, my sweet baby Krishna! Heim, it's been so long. The woman, Madana Mohana Mohini, Devi Das, cried in happiness as she spun the shorter girl around. Wait until Mrs. Gargi and Mrs. Pondermaya hear of this. Wait! Are they here? Is my magic teacher here? Heim asked with hope. She simply adored her friend from the big, red mansion. Mohini's face fell. No! Her and Mrs. Gargi had to remain back in Gensokyo. Oh, but... The redhead gently grabbed Dekuheim in her arms. We're still a few waiting for you. And with that, the dragon lady of Gensokyo jumped the property's front door, leaving Ochako in the proverbial dust. And then Mohini jumped back and grabbed her too. Zero. Heim-chan. A woman with blue hair and wearing a dress of green, blue, and yellow yelped happily as she hugged the short girl. Around her, a painted dragon swirled in numerous hues as he snuggled to Izuku-chan. It's good to see you again, my friend. Keiki Dash. Don't ask Sam at the end, silly. I'm your friend. Remember that. The glowing woman spoke as she poked Dekuheim's nose before turning her gaze to Ochako. Oh, and who might she be? She asked as she stepped closer to the 15-year-old. Ochako stared at the colorful, glowing woman, nodding at her feet, didn't touch the ground, didn't seem to blink and casted no shadows, and just screamed artist. Oh, Urarka Ochako, please take good care of me. The brunette bowed as low as she could. Sure, the other girl might look young, but, well, she knew there was more to her than meets the eyes. Io, am I smelling right? Is Suki here with another magic baby? Another woman asked as she rushed out the door, and her entire appearance caused Ochako to balk. She had deep dark skin like chitin, wore a black shirt and short ensemble with a golden chain pattern printed on in green metallic rings decorating all of her hems. She had long, Wild gray hair stilled a mullet. How come it worked for her? And was barefooted. On her arms and legs were about a dozen or so orange ribbons. Her ice blue eyes were trained on Ochako, and the girl felt awfully creeped out about this. Beside her, DISCLAIMER gasped, "Momoyo, Iwai, bring it in, girl." The creepy-looking woman opened her arms wide, preparing for the little bullet that was an ecstatic DISCLAIMER. Then she felt a hand on her shoulder. Turning around, she saw this beautiful and exceedingly tall woman wearing a red and blue dress decorated with constellations. Accurate constellation, might she add. Her hair was as silver as a moon. A small nurse had sat at the top of her thick, luscious hair. "We saw that you received the 7 sages' blessing. How you feel now, O fortunate soul?" Ochako just stared, trying to form words that didn't exist in the face of the glowing, otherworldly woman. I think I realized I was a soul, but now I think I'm Ochako and poor," she asked this morning. She had expected to go through the exam, ace it, then come back and have her parents finally shower her with affection, not dying under a giant robot's thread, get revived, and then face the ultimate reality that she was not this body, to make a friend with her staber, offered a place to stay other than her dingy, bed-bug-infested apartment with her super-loud neighbors, their dogs, and whatever the fuck they were cooking, and definitely not meeting with this absolutely beautiful, otherworldly woman that glowed like the full autumn moon, and whose eyes would not blink and cast no shadows. Who are you?" she finally managed to ask. The woman's smile broadened. "I have quite a few names. Some call me Yagakoro Iranoa Moikane, or just Dr. Yagakoro, but I now go by Ekarani Devi Desai." "Ekalani? With an R, dear. Oh, Just keep it simple. You don't have to talk about yourself any differently." The tall woman kneeled in front of Ochako. Thankfully so, since she was starting to gain a crick in her neck. "I'm Urarko Ochako. Nice to meet you, Davidasi-san." The bubbly girl bowed deeply, causing the moon-haired woman to blush happily. "As much as I love being called servant of the all-effulgent goddess, it would be easier if you were to call me Ekarani, since we are all Devi Desis here." "Okay." Ochako once again bowed at the formidable woman whose taste matched her own. Little did she know, but Ochako had met her first Lunarian. She would meet the rest tomorrow during the super early morning ceremony. But this information would be realized quite a few months later since, at the moment, and due to quirks being so widespread, Ochako only saw them as those super nice cultists who agreed to house her instead of the dangerous apartment her parents had chosen for her in the worst part of Mizurufu. Speaking of morning, 0, the sound of ringing bells met Ochako's ears. Not that this should have woken her up since, she was from an expanded family, and her half-sibling all had their own personal schedules. But for some reason, this very faint sound woke her up. Who the hell would ring a bell at? She checks her old Caterpillar phone. 3:45 in the morning? Like, what the fuck's wrong with them? She mumbled as she glared at her clock, unable to fall asleep, not because she had not been about to. Well, she still had the realization that she was not this body, but at the same time, she had no idea who she was other than a servant of Krishna, and this woke her up. Right? I'm not this body. I'm the spirit soul locked away in there. Better start my service to him then. Ain't gonna waste any more time in this shitty place. The brunette thought as she threw off her blanket and made her bed. They were all sleeping on the floor, something quite unusual in Japan, since America once again became the strongest country in the world financially speaking. Then went to look for the rest of the cultists, wondering what type of ceremony they were performing at 8:00 in the morning. She followed the sound to the house's main room, the living room, and indeed, light streamed from the shoji door. Ochako could also hear mumbling. "No. What is it? Halu? Kushna? Lama." Suddenly the door slid open, and a silver-haired woman, not Ekarani, another one with short hair and a silver and blue sari. Also, were her eyes blue or red? Also, what was that mark on her forehead? "Oh, Urarka-san. Hare Krishna, good morning." She folded her palms. "I don't think we've had met yesterday, but you may call me Azeo Sakuya." "Oh, that's a Japanese name." Ochako blurted out. She had already noticed that most had their own foreign names like Ekarani, Kokala, and Madamana Mohini, and always ending in Devi Desai. Yes, she blushed as she sighed elegantly. Your diva has yet to manifest, but I know one day it will. She spoke brightly. Now enough about me. What are you doing up so early in the morning? Not that waking up to attend Mangala Arati is bad. Mangala Arati? We greet the Lord after he and his Radha sleep, or, in our case, Garanga and Nityananda. Mrs. Zao explained kindly. But before you do, it is advised that you bathe and cover yourself in clean clothes. It is God, the cleanest and purest we are about to see after all. Oh, right. She was about to see her master and... Come, let me bath you quickly. What? 0. When Sakuya had said that she would bathe Ochako quickly, she meant it, since after a blink, the brunette was bathed, massaged with fragrant oils, dressed in a silken sari expertly folded, decorated with a few tasteful ornaments and makeup, and back in a room as if nothing had happened. This had prompted the teen to ask the elegant and perfect woman about her quirk, only for her to tell Ochako that this wasn't a quirk, but the magic from an artifact and the blessing of Kala, Time himself, who just so happens to be an illusionary aspect of God, Krishna, who is now on their altar as Garanga. It was super interesting, but also way too esoteric for Ochako's taste. It was still 4 a.m, way too early to have Sakuya explain the nature of the absolute truth, especially to a soul that had just woken up to the fact that she was not this body, but, well, an eternal soul wearing a flesh suit whose bodily blueprint was made out of karma, time and reactions to said karma. And misery, let us not forget miseries. 15 minutes later, and the sound of a pair of crutches echoed in the hallway, heralding the arrival of Dekaheim. Actually, her name was Izuku, but since her identity had changed, she let one of her friends choose it for her. At first, Ochako thought it meant useless princess. And in a way, it did, since Deku would never be able to bear children. But at the same time, it was the name of the Deku princess, a spitfire that lived in the Deku Palace in The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask. Yes, her friend was a geek, and Ochako just so happens to like geeks, especially esoteric ones. Heim's here, Momoyo declared as she and another blonde woman, carrying a sword, went to open the door for her. Herr Krishna Heim. And indeed, there she was, wearing an ethnic dress, a green and black sari, and her ever-present cold moat mask. Apparently, Ochako's friend had to wear it to hide her identity, lest she was discovered. Something about how it was connected to her losing her ability to procreate. For Ochako, it sounded like a dream since, kids cost money. But hey, I'm not this body, and whatever money will come when the time is right. So I don't need to stress out about it. Besides, it's my parents who have the financial problems, not me. Oh, Chaka-kan. Aizu-chan spoke with surprise. Herr Krishna, are you also going to participate in the Mangala Arati? Yep. No choice. The brunette spoke with a strained smile. The bell woke me up. That's weird. Aizu-chan commented with a tilt of her mask. We usually don't ring the bell that loud, since we don't want to disturb our closest neighbor. I heard he had a nasty temper and was prone to burn houses down and blame it on faulty electrical outlets. They may be fearless and overpowered, but unless it was a truly evil man whose powers came close to their own, then better not disturb him too much. Actually, another woman spoke up, the black-skinned one. Madri did ring the bell this morning. She told me she saw a few too many ghosts around. Besides, Daddy made this place as fireproof as he could. Behind her mask, Dekaheim smiled. Right, in case of... In case of what? One of my aunt and mother figures is an arsonist. Sometime, she just has to burn something. Oh. Dekaheim clapped her hands together. But she is still a devotee of the Lord, and very dear to Lord Krishna. Without her, I would not be so well raised and loved. Now, speaking of Krishna, I believe the Arati is about to start. And indeed, the priestess, a young girl wearing an ice-white sari that complemented her long silver, braided hair, blew a conch 3 times, then pulled the curtains open. All bowed, save for Ochako, who was caught in the Lord's beauty. And indeed, for those pure souls who regained their divine eyes, Sarah in the golden form of Garanga with hands open, freely giving his causeless mercy to all, including her, a fallen soul, a marginal potency who fell for the trap of Maya. Tears fell from her eyes, the best offering one could give to God. 0. And thus, the week passed by in the most mundane way possible for Haim. She would wake up at the same time every morning. And every morning, a maidservant would help her bathe and dress. Then she would attend Mangalarati. Only this time, there was Chakakan too. It was a joy to see her take to Krishna consciousness, something not many could do despite this being the default state of all souls. Krishna consciousness really was what was written on the thing. You were conscious of Krishna, of God, of what he did, of his devotee, and more importantly, of what would make him happy. The name of the game was not how to have as much pleasure you could afford before death took everything away, but how to please Krishna eternally. And it was the most simple thing ever. It was just like reigniting a relationship long lost due to someone, hint, not Krishna. You had to start by calling him, and you would do this for Krishna by chanting his holy names. The Hare Krishna mantra of 16 syllables. The greatest sin ever committed was to be separated from God and to enjoy what was his. And this was the reason most were here. Some had other reasons. But Krishna was not the cruel and merciless God who would smite the infidel. He was not one to be feared, but one to be loved. And thus, the path of Bhakti started by calling him using the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. And then, when the lines of communications were open, and depending on how much you were willing to sacrifice to have your friendship back, Krishna would slowly, shyly reestablish the relationship. Of course, those sacrifices were not drastic, as giving up blood and one own babies on an altar of sacrifice, killing them like Abraham almost did his son Jacob. No, the greatest sacrifice one could perform in this most fallen age of Kali, a time where not mantras that held no powers, and no brahmana could chant them perfectly, where big, lavish sacrifice only ended in debts and ashes, and in which yoga was only for show of gymnastic and meditation, but a tool for mental well-being in a time of duress. And none of those were practiced to return back home, back to Godhead, back to Krishna, the real, original reason for all fasting, austerities, donations to good causes, charity, and deity worship. No, in this fallen age of Kali, performance of those practices was the same as pouring oil onto ashes. No matter how hard you tried, you would never get fire. No, the religion for this age, the one true and ever-potent sacrifice was the chanting of the holy name of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. It was the best meditation. Dancing to it was the best asana. The time given to it, him, was the best of sacrifice. And since Krishna and his names, especially his main one, then the performance of the sacrifice was the same as perfectly worshipping his form. And what a form it was. So as I was saying, Chakakan, the main practice we do to please Krishna is to perform Harinam Sankirtana. She explains, her friend, one Friday afternoon as she and a few other otherworldly women made their way to one of the busiest streets of downtown Mizudafu. There, an interesting mix of overindulgence and utter misery lumbered around. So what's Halanama's Sakitale? The shorter woman asked, expertly butchering the name. Harinama Sankirtana. Deku enunciated carefully. It's the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in group and in public. She explained. It's super fun. You sing and you dance with your hands up in the air dash. Is it even legal here? Ochako fretted, rubbing her hands together. Every finger had a ring that would prevent her quirk from activating. A simple thought was all that was needed to be able to reverse gravity again. It was a gift from Umadevi Desai, Deku's father, a woman. Last I heard, every and all demonstrations were banned by the Hero Public Safety Commission. Both were dressed in opulent and colorful saris, with the thilaka proudly glowing on their forehead. Yes, Deku spoke tersely, but not on private property, she spoke innocently. It was hard for Ochako to get a read on her new friend and housemate, since she never removed the creepy no mask. Like, at all. "Oh, by the way, I think we're here," she said as she showed Ochako a private parking lot where a building once stood. Well, legally it was a parking lot, but it was used by quite a few sari-wearing people, and even some men wearing Indian clothes. Suddenly, the one in the red sari decorated with a huge ceremonial rope rose up to her full size and turned around. Haim gasped, her hidden eyes wide as she literally launched herself toward the blue-haired, slightly serpentine woman with abandon. Calling her a name Ochako would never have guessed in a million years. "Mama." Zero. Back in UA. It was a final meeting before school started, and thus Mineta Minoru, Bakugo Katsuki, and Moriya Izuku will be in Class 1A under heavy surveillance. Nedzu spoke from his podium. Shoyuta sighed, feeling the weight of the world on his shoulder and hating those kids before he'd even met them. Save for Miss Moriya, of course. Just in the entrance exam alone, she had managed to show herself to be an ideal hero, someone who had experience dealing with this type of situation where all hell broke loose and nothing but your wits and ability could get you out alive. Then she used quirks, plurals, to not only ace it, but while having fun while doing it and saving the student from certain death by stabbing her with an ancient Taoist sword that had been lost to time and considered a myth. They had all seen her prowess, the skills and poise she possessed, and the sheer madness that animated her. He would not be surprised if she would fly to Nedzu and request a time and ask him why he was not running late for his very important date, or some other trash like that. Also, for some obscure reason, when Nedzi went to tail the trans girl to her home, only to forget what he was supposed to do and go back home to sleep and cuddle with his cat. He'd only remembered his failed mission when Nedzu asked him what he'd found about the girls. Needless to say, this had been Shuta's worst moment as a professional. Shoyuta let out a heavy sigh as he rubbed his face. "All right, so we know Miss Moriya has multiple quirks, and from what we gathered from Yagi-san Dash, or powerless and dying all might, why? Oh, why was he still fighting? What was it so hard to admit that he'd been severely wounded, and thus could not continue fighting on the front line? The only one who's ever had more than one quirk had been one for all, the boogeyman of the underworld." Gasps rippled throughout the room, with whispered about how it was impossible. The boogeyman of the underworld was dead. All Might had killed him, avenging his mentor. It was common knowledge. So, why are we keeping this kid in UA and not interrogating him? Wouldn't Tartarus be better? Sekiro Kan sneered. "I could handle the Spitfire in this. What is he? A dwarf? And why are we keeping this perv here? I take that his desire to mate with powerful females is frowned upon then." Nedza grinned. "Besides, Moriya-san is quirkless, as confirmed by both Shoyuta and her medical file." The thing grinned, meaning that whatever they are using is not a quirk, and it's also not from a support item. There was quite an interesting tale here, one I cannot wait to see unfold. For his part, Aizawa Shoyuta just buried his whole face in his scarf, ignoring the rest of the meeting as he mentally prepared for the new torture. New school year. He was not looking forward to this one, and since he was given instruction to not expel anyone in his class this year, they'd trough he was being too critical. Well, excuse him for trying to evacuate would be child soldier from the meatball machine. He could not even plan to expel those three. It would be too dangerous to have this quirkless anomaly run free.